So, you want to be a real estate investor, but where do you start? How do you know what information and sources to trust? That's where I come in. I'm Jonny, and this is the Investor Relations Real Estate Podcast. Hey guys, real quick, before we start, go to investwithkatani.com and download my free ebook, Is Commercial Real Estate Recession Proof? Now to today's show. What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Investor Relations Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Jonny, and I'm joined today by Sensei Gilliland, founder of real estate education, investment, and consulting company, Black Belt Investors. Sensei Gilliland has become one of the most respected educators in the industry. After becoming one of the top-ranked martial artists in the country, he discovered the huge rewards of investing in real estate for himself in 1995. Making thousands of dollars on that first deal, he was hooked and scaled his investments and operations to wholesaling, rehabbing, and rental properties. Today, Sensei is a national speaker, private consultant, and active investor who has trained thousands of investors from coast to coast to generate cash and wealth through real estate. Sensei, welcome.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Very excited for today's conversation. We kind of alluded there in the beginning. First real estate deal was in 95. Take us back there, what stuck out about it, or did it happen by accident, and kind of what led you to where you're at now?
Well, it didn't happen by accident. That's for sure. It was intentional, but did I know what I was doing? No, I didn't know what I was doing. There's a difference. I started like everybody else. I watched an infomercial at night. I went over to the hotel, listened to the guy speak, got all pumped up. Yes, that's what I want to do. Sign up for a 3-day training seminar. They didn't call them boot camps back then, but they were training seminars. He kind of showed the gamut of what can happen in real estate, but not enough to get it going. So the next thing you know, in 94, I'm signing up for a $32,000 educational package. Now, that's a lot of money today, and it's a lot of money back then, but it was well worth it. Now, here's the thing. Most people end up spending that type of money and do absolutely nothing for it. But I just got recently married in 95. And so 1995 was a big year. I got engaged. We planned a wedding. We got married. We bought our first house. We rehabbed the house. We had a baby. And then I did a cash out refinance. And then I bought my very first fix and flip in Fort Myers, Florida, all in 1995. So yeah, that put a lot of pressure on me to get it done. But that's kind of how I work. I work better under pressure than I do, giving me the time of day, because I am a great procrastinator. So with that, I went to Florida, living out of Southern California, went to Florida. Why? Because it was affordable. I couldn't afford anything here in Southern California. Everything out of state was a lot less money. Picked up a property for $42,000, $10,000 down, required by Bank of America. And then I owned this piece of junk property that needed to be all fixed up. And then I ran into a problem. Problem was, didn't have any money for the fix up. But I remember listening to my 8 tracks and cassettes that, hey, if you find a great deal, money will come to it. And it sure did. Came right out of my credit card. So my credit card paid for my rehab, and I ended up spending $17,000. Now, the difficulty is that I was remote. I'm in California. This property's over in Florida, and I can't fly back and forth because I have no more room on my credit card to get over there to charge a flight. So I had to rely on phone calls and a Polaroid every once in a while to give me an update on how the property was going, because we didn't have the internet like we have today, right? Well, after 6 months, they promised it would flip by that time. It didn't. 7, 8, 9 months come along. We close escrow. I receive a FedEx envelope. I rip it open, pull out a check for a little over $9,000 in net profits. And I was tickled pink. I was really on cloud 9, thinking, oh my God, I did it. I did it remotely. I did it just like the book said I can do it. And I made a little over $1,000 per month in passive income. And I say passive because honestly, I didn't really do anything. I was leaving it in the hands of all the professionals to get it done. Well, flipping my first deal is like a can of Pringles. Once you pop, you can't stop. I started taking on more properties. And from that time to 95 to 2002, we've done over 10,000 properties, 15,000 doors. We supply investments worldwide to investors that want to buy and hold properties.
Wow, that's incredible. And what a fascinating, because obviously, like you mentioned, remote investing is definitely easier with technology now. Mm-hmm. A lot more tools at our disposal, but how fascinating to just FedEx, literally FedExing Polaroids.
Yeah.
So you could get up to date. I
Up
put
to
that
date
in
was
air
phone
quotes.
call, but how do you know? You don't
Right.
know. Then they send you a Polaroid, and then you're hoping that picture is of your house and not someone else's house. You don't know unless you're out boots on the ground. And my boots were not on the ground. Couldn't afford to do it. I already spent all my money on that one property.
Wow, that's incredible. But that's awesome that it worked out and gave you that taste, and obviously has led to incredible success today. So let's kind of jump into that. Like we said, more tools at our disposal in terms of getting into this space. But let's talk about, being in the beginning. A big thing for you is generating cash and wealth. So kind of talk about the difference between those two and where we should get started and go from there.
Absolutely. So, we're not born investors. We're taught to become an investor. You either have the guts to have that entrepreneurial spirit and be able to fall down and scrape your knees and break your arm and get back and keep trekking, or you just shy away from it. And so most people like myself were not born with a silver spoon in my mouth. And I was not really mentored by my parents because my parents didn't have any money. However, I immediately connected in high school with people that were older than I and those that are, in my eyes, successful at the time. And they were my mentors. So they came to me basically and said, what is it that you want? Well, I wanted everything that the infomercial, boats and planes and cars. And, they didn't call it bling back there. Everything was bitching back then. I wanted something really bitching is what I wanted. But, that's what I was after. I was a young kid just wanting some money in my pocket. But then the question is, how do you buy a house with no money? And what's this owner financing thing? And wholesaling was not even on the table because people didn't even know about wholesaling back then, right? And how do you go from A to B and private money and all? Oh my gosh, there's just so much to learn, right? Well, the only way to really swim is to just jump in. You either sink or swim. And that's the way I work. Like I was mentioning to you earlier, my approach is ready, fire, aim. And sometimes you'll run across more obstacles doing it that way, but you'll also learn faster. You have a better learning curve. And so going back to my mentors, they asked me what I really want. And they said, well, what you really need is not what you want, is what you need is a paycheck. You don't need a boat. You don't need houses. You don't need jewelry. You need a paycheck. And what's going to be the fastest path to be able to get to that paycheck? Now, I didn't say the easiest path, but the fastest path. And I didn't say a path that you're going to enjoy. What is the path to get to that consistent paycheck? Because most people that are W-2 employees are getting paid every 2 weeks. If you have to look forward to a paycheck every 2 weeks, then there's something wrong in this equation. Okay. So you want to turn every 2 weeks to maybe every week and a half, to every week, to every 3 days. Every day you should be getting paid. One of my biggest motivators in the morning is this little phone right here. What it shows me is all the little PayPals and things that come in of automatic payments, anywhere from $10 to $100 to $1,000, of all these different little payments coming to me. And this is my cash register, and this motivates me. So now I'm on a business to where in real estate, I'm getting paid on a daily basis. But so the big question is for investors is, how do I get that paycheck? Well, there's a lot of components that go into that question. But I can tell you right now, the easiest path, if you want to get into the buy and sell to create cash, is to work no money down deals or no money, no credit at all deals. And that can lead us into wholesaling, and that can lead us into purchase options. Wholesaling, simple, find a deal, put it under contract, sell your contractual rights. Really no risk at all. Purchase options, usually when it lacks the equity to where you can still get a property that lacks the equity, maybe even upside down in equity, put it under contract, sell those contractual rights. And so with that, you're able to collect a couple paychecks. You build up the money, and then you move it over into another area of real estate, which is buy, fix, and flip. So I did it backwards. I bought, fix, and flipped, right? That's what I did for the first 4 years until I learned about wholesaling back in 99. But when I'm fixing and flipping, I'm making great money, but we're all limited. We're limited to time. We're limited to credit. We're limited to resources, financial resources, right? Especially when you're wearing all the hats. I'm wearing the hat as the GM, and I'm wearing the hat as the GC. I'm wearing the hat as the secretary, the marketer, and all this other stuff. So what I always tell everybody is if you're making some money in real estate, make sure you reinvest that money into your business. Don't go buy spinning rims for your Pinto. Okay. Because that's what a lot of people do. They tend to spend the money right away. And so it's very easy for us to fall in that trap. But wholesaling is probably going to be the least risky and the most profitable way to get started in real estate. And that can lead into rehabbing real estate. And then you have two income streams. You cherry pick the deals that you want to rehab, and you discard the contracts with payment that you don't want. And you have two income streams. When I was able to develop those two, I was able to kick out hard money lenders and start self-funding deals.
Wow. That's awesome. And certainly if I would go back, I would definitely, because when I first started going to RIA meetups, it was a lot of wholesaling, which I know typically most of those are. And I just didn't understand it. And of course, you know, I was young 20s, want to do everything on my own. So instead of just jumping in with someone, I stayed on the sideline essentially. And if I could go back, I certainly would take on wholesaling. So let's kind of start there. What does that look like in terms of getting started? You know, should we be finding someone who's doing it and partnering up with them, or should we just go read a bunch of books and do it ourselves?
Yeah. So I think with any business you're going to get into, you should at least understand the basics and have a solid foundation. Okay. As General Patton, funny enough, yesterday was Memorial Day, right? General Patton said a plan today is better than a perfect plan next week. So we don't want to make it perfect. We just want to be able to have something that's actionable right now, some baby steps to get going. Does that mean you got to listen to great podcasts like this or go over to YouTube University and start learning about wholesaling? Yes, get the general idea. But at some point, you're going to have to pay for your education, and that's going to be extremely important. That education can come in the form of a boot camp seminar or a one-on-one coaching or all of the above. Education is going to be very important. Can you imagine if I had a heart problem and I needed to see a heart surgeon? Am I going to go to the heart surgeon that went through high school, college, medical school, or am I going to go off the one that learned from podcasts and YouTube University? Yeah, exactly. You're going to smile because you're going to laugh at it, right?
Right.
You got to not do it on your own. You need to have someone along your side that has been there and done that exactly in the niche field that you're trying to tackle.
Yeah. And one thing I want to say too is you'll pay for your education regardless. So if you try to do by yourself and mess up, that's potentially money lost. And that is an education paid for. So you may as well invest that in someone who can help you avoid those mistakes.
Absolutely. I can tell you right now, you know, a lot of people look at education as a cost factor. Well, all right, how much do you want? $999, $997, $1,000, $10,000. That's the first problem right there. They're looking at it as a cost factor, not as an investment factor. I have $182,000 in my first 15 years of real estate in education, well paid for, you know, in regards to the investments that I've been able to get in return. Now, some of it, I won't say it was a waste of money, but I'm like, really? I paid for this, but I still got something out of it. And I still made a way to make some money out of what I learned in that area. So if it's something I already knew, but I can just sharpen it a little bit, then it was well worth the education. So don't be afraid to invest in your education. But where I will say take some caution is to make sure that you're being educated well by someone that has been through it all. What do I mean by through it all? Not someone that jumped on the bandwagon after the recession. Listen, a lot of people jumped on the bandwagon. You're young, okay? You get on the bandwagon of right after the recession because things are easy. But what happened to those so-called gurus prior to the recession in 2008 and went through the recession? Most of them are no longer around. It's those that went through it. Okay. Now, there's nothing wrong with starting now or starting 6 or 7 years ago. That's fine. But I'm saying, listen, if you're going to go after your career, your passion, then you better get the best education and get the most bang for your buck than you can. Don't just sign up with someone's seminar or boot camp because it sounds pretty.
I love that. That's incredible insight. One thing I kind of preach on when it comes to this is don't look at the price tag, look at the value. Mm-hmm. So like you said, right, how long have they been in it? What have they been through? What stories are they willing to tell you about when things went wrong? You know, that's another big kind of separation factor is, you know, are they willing to tell you where they completely messed up and fell on their face?
Absolutely. And I can tell you right now, the majority of those guys out there, and I don't mind calling them out, but the majority of those guys out there preach that they're investors, and they're not. They're just pushing information. They say they invest. They may have done a couple deals here and there, but really their primary income source is through selling information. Whereas black belt investors and other companies, our primary income source is actually real estate, and education is what follows because I love to do so.
Awesome. I love that. So now that we've got that component, that piece in place, which is, obviously the creation of a good foundation here. So we're getting into wholesaling, starting to generate some cash. Hopefully, what's the next step?
Yeah. So for me, I think the wholesaling is going to be the first step for most investors that lack maybe credit or money, or maybe lack a little bit of confidence. I think wholesaling is extremely important to follow up in the next steps, because if you're buying, fixing, and flipping a property, you have to buy it at a wholesale rate, right? That's a wholesale deal. If you're a landlord like myself, am I going to pay retail or am I going to pay wholesale? I'm going to pay a wholesale deal. So wholesaling doesn't pertain just to assigning contracts. Wholesaling just means that you're getting a discount on a property, and hopefully a significant discount to where you close on it. You've actually got built-in equity into it. And so I think wholesaling is really the foundation of all real estate. You were just explaining to me of regards to a self-storage facility and how you got the land. You got to get it at a wholesale rate. You got to be able to close on that deal at the land at a wholesale deal. Then you got to start putting all the numbers together in regards to development and building the structure. And hopefully you get things not at a retail price, but at a wholesale price, so you can create value, right? Because more than likely, most people that do what you're trying to do, and I'm not sure your exit strategy, they're either going to keep it, but most of them end up selling it. And how are you going to make that profit if you don't do things at the wholesale level? So it's very important for all investors to learn the wholesaling aspect of it. And then you can have a choice, as you now have an option, as you mentioned to me, we're probably going to put this thing together, but if not, we always have the backup plan of wholesaling it out. Awesome. Now you got two exit strategies versus one, which reduces your risks, right? So after you assign a few contracts, you build up the capital. Now you probably have the down payment to go acquire a hard money loan to go purchase a fix and flip. But that does not mean abandon your wholesale business. Let these things come in every once in a while and sell contracts, because selling the contracts not only going to make the money for your down payment, but it'll also probably pay for your rehab or holding costs or all of it. And now you've got maybe, let's just say 2 or 3 wholesale deals per month, and you're fixing and flipping one house every 2 months, 2 income streams. And then you get to the point where I got to add on the third one. And the third one, in my opinion, is purchase options. Now, most people have not heard the term of purchase options. They've heard of lease options, but purchase options is kind of the umbrella of different types of creative financing. Lease options, sandwich lease options, land contracts, contract for deeds, owner financing, wraparound mortgages, AITDs. These are all options that you have at your disposal. And the cool thing is that you can work the equity side or the side that has no equity. So as a wholesaler, going back as flipping contracts or buying, fixing, and flipping properties, there's one thing that's required: equity. You have to have equity or you don't make any money. But on the purchase option side, it doesn't matter if you have equity in it, no equity, or upside down in equity, and you can still make some money. I call it the yin yang of real estate. It balances each other out.
Interesting. Okay. So kind of explain then in more detail here what this purchase option concept is.
Okay. Let's start off with, let's just say, lease options. A lot of people are familiar with lease options, but have not performed them. Okay. Now you can work a lease options in several different ways. The way I like to work a lease option is not act as the seller, but act as the middleman. So I find a distressed property, maybe a distressed seller, if I'm lucky, at a combination of both, distressed property and seller. I will put that property under contract as with an option to buy at the end of the term. Now it's going to be at a discounted rate. I also will probably pay market rents, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, depending on what the deal is. I will package that up, and then I will go find someone to buy that from me. I'll go find that person that wants to purchase a home but can't because they lack the credit or the down payment or the combination of both. So I will offer them the lease option. So if I go to seller A, I come in with no money. I make up, the monthly mortgage payment, lease payment, whatever it is, and they're released of the debt on that side. I come over here to party C because I'm B in the middle, and I sell this option over to them. They come in with a down payment. I didn't have to put one up, so I made money up front. They pay me the rent, which now pays the seller over here his mortgage, but they also pay me a rent premium. So now I'm making money in the middle, and then I sell it to them at a full retail price at the end. So I made money three ways: up front, in the middle, and the back end. I just stay in the middle of the transaction. I don't own the property. I don't lease the property. I'm not living in the property. I'm just the guy that basically the puppet master, shuffling paper and money back and forth. Now, what did that cost me? Zero, nothing. How many deals can I put together like that per month? It's up to you on how many you want to work. 2, 5, 100, up to you. Where's my risk factor? Zero.
Is there any risk in not finding another buyer by the time the closing date comes?
So
if the original purchase?
Well, great question. So of course we're going to have exit strategies, right? So if I can't find my ideal buyer for this scenario here, I have the option to go cancel the agreement. I have the option to extend the agreement. I have the option to renegotiate the agreement so I can package it up and resell it with new terms. Either way, I'm not tied to anything. The only time you're tied to a property is when you put your name on title, you put money into the deal, and you put credit into the deal. Keep those three things out, you're almost risk-free.
Awesome. I love that. That's incredible insight. So that's the lease option, correct?
That's the lease option. So let me explain this one. I'll go to the other end because this is actually my favorite technique out of all of them. This is subject to financing. And subject to financing basically means it's subject to the existing mortgage. And I'm doing one right now. If you go to my Facebook page, you'll see me walking through a house, video rehab. Okay. So I came across a property back in 2016. The property value at that time, true value was $575,000. True value. Okay. 3,600 square foot home, strong middle income neighborhood. But the loan on that property was $609,000. So we're upside down, aren't we? What did I do? I came in, packaged this deal up, letting the owner know that I will give you $5,000 to walk from this property, and I will take over your mortgage payment for the next 6 years. They said, okay. They were seeking debt relief, is what they were seeking. Their mortgage payment was just a tad over $2,800 per month PITI. Okay. Now I package this deal up, I market it, and I sell it to a family at $625,000, $50,000 above true market value. My mortgage payment is $2,800. They're paying $3,300 per month PITI. So I'm making $500 a month in net cash flow for the next 5-year term. I gave myself 6 years with the seller, 5 years with them. Okay. Now they are to cash me out. So I made money up front and I made money in the middle, and they're to cash me out. Now I'll make money on the back end, but they didn't cash me out. May 31st, which is exactly 1 year ago today in 2021, they were supposed to cash me out and they didn't do it. I gave them a 2-week extension. They didn't do it. I even gave them an extra 4 weeks after that. They didn't do it. And my colleagues are saying, Sensei, you're freaking nuts for extending this. Why is that? Because last November it appraised for $950,000 and I'd be walking away from all that equity. And I said, sometimes it's not always about the money. This family's trying really, really hard to acquire the American dream because they are immigrants. They just couldn't do it. So middle of February of this year, they vacated the property. I took possession. Now, in this subject to deal, I acquired the deed from the seller. I am the owner. They're holding the existing mortgage in place. But when I resold the property to the new buyer, I kept the deed. I did not give it to them because then I can do basically an eviction / foreclosure on them, much faster process than a foreclosure. Got it? Now, I'm in the middle of a rehab. It's going to cost me about $145,000 in rehab on this property. I'm just blowing it out is what I'm doing. It'll be well worth over $1.1 million. And I have a balance of about $536,000 on the property. All that equity. And what did it cost me? Really nothing. Now what's cost me now is the money to come out of pocket to do the renovation. Okay. I didn't have to do that. I could have sold it as is for $950 because that's what it appraised for in last November, but that's not what I'm doing.
Wow. That's a fascinating deal structure. So in the beginning, then do you just assume the loan, or does the bank not even know who's paying them? You just agree to pay.
Yeah. Great question. So it's not an assumption because there's very, very few loans out there that are assumable today, if not none. There is an acceleration clause on just about every loan that's out there. An acceleration clause is also known as a due on sales clause. Basically, when the property is sold, you are now owe the bank the balance of that deal. But the way I structure it with trust and everything, the bank has no clue. They just keep accepting the money every single month. And there is, some liability on the bank's side of if they keep accepting my money, even though they find out maybe a year or later that I took over the property, they can't really foreclose on me because they've taken my money so many times. So that's kind of a gray area, but it's a really strong gray area for this guy right here. As long as you keep making your payments, they're okay with it. But no, we're not going to run to the bank and say, guess what? I took over the house. I'm going to be no, you don't want to do that either. So I won't do anything illegal. Will I stretch the balloon? Absolutely. But I won't make it pop.
Right. No, absolutely. That totally makes sense. I've heard of that gray area than before. So, wow, that is a fascinating structure. Interesting. And it just goes to show that if you want to get a deal done, there's a way to get it done. So there's really no excuse for not getting involved somehow. I'm sure you can attest to this. How many people have told you they're not going to get into real estate because they don't have enough money?
Yep. All the time. And is money required? No, it doesn't make it easier. Absolutely. It makes it a lot easier, but it's not required at all. This particular deal that I explained, X out the rehab expense because that was an option that I decided to do. But everything from the beginning to the February of this year cost me no money, none. And I made $500,000 in equity plus the $6,000 a year in cash flow and the down payment that they gave me.
Wow. So how are you finding these deals? What sourcing these deals?
What business are you in? I forgot.
Relationship, commercial, real estate,
marketing.
Yeah, marketing,
right? It's always marketing. It doesn't matter what business you are. I can do this with anything. I just swap out the product or the service, but we're all into marketing, right? So it boils down to marketing. I do a lot of inbound and outbound marketing. And inbound marketing is when referral sources bring you stuff. Outbound marketing is when I'm pushing out black belt investors, letting everybody know what I'm doing, right? So right now during this podcast, this is a very soft outbound marketing, right? But inbound marketing is you came to me. You found me, right? So we got a combination of both here. So marketing really boils down to it. I don't have a huge marketing budget. In the beginning, I didn't have a marketing budget. I built up to a very large one. And then I was able to scale back because the inbound marketing started to take place. And that goes back to what your first answer was, relationships. So building those relationships, people knowing who Sensei Gilliland is, black belt investors, there's a trust, there's a credibility factor. And now I have more of a magnet where people are bringing me things and I get to be able to choose.
Wow. Awesome. I love that. So as we kind of wind down here, what would you say for the very beginner? What's the best marketing? Is it direct mail or?
No, best marketing. If you're going to be flipping a property, then it's to partner up with someone. Because I have a system in my wholesaling course called Find It, Bind It, and Assign It. You find the deal, you find the cash buyer, you find your target zone, your market where you're going to be doing your operations. You find all this stuff, right? Until you get it under contract. And that's when you're in the bind it side. You bind it under contract. Well, if you can piggyback off someone that has already got the property under contract, and all you have to do is market that contract, you already cut out the majority of the work because the first platform of Find It is the most abundance of work. So piggyback off of someone. So if Jonathan's got a property and he wants to liquidate this piece of land or this house or this commercial building, and I'm interested, I think I can find a buyer for it, I'm going to ask permission. I always ask permission. You just don't start marketing someone else's properties. Ask permission, figure out some sort of deal structure, ask what the terms are, get the know about that property and about that seller, and then take it and package it up and market out to your database. Because if I've got a property and I can market out to Jonathan and he's got a database of 5,000 people, and I take it over to Mary and she's got a database of 100 people, and I take it over to Joanne and she's got 1,000 people, I am tapping into everybody else's marketing database, and I'm going to be able to sell much faster. So piggyback off of someone that's already got the deal. That's the fastest way.
Awesome. I love that. I appreciate that insight. Awesome. Well, this has been very fascinating, and I've definitely learned a lot about creative financing, and I'm not even going to lie, probably go out and create some of these deals for myself, despite my love for commercial, because I actually have created a network to do this, and I just haven't done it. So
commercial is the perfect place to do creative financing.
I know
that's creative financing didn't come with single family residences. I'm in the residential space. It came in the business, in the commercial and industrial space.
Especially like self-storage,
right of it.
The asset class that I like the most. There's a lot of opportunity for seller financing and stuff out there. Cool. Well, that brings us to the final five. It's the last 5 questions I asked all of my guests.
Okay.
First question, best advice you've gotten from a mentor?
Sometimes you have to quit to get ahead.
Love that. What is it about your career that makes you feel like you're fulfilling your why?
It's about the education teaching, because I absolutely love seeing students succeed.
Awesome. That's so great. Favorite non-real estate or investment related book?
It would be the very first book I think I ever read. It's not Cat in the Hat. I mean, in high school, it was The Richest Man to Babylon. By far, most resonated with me. I'll be honest, I don't read books. I write books.
That's fair. That's totally fair. But you're not the first person to suggest that book. It's definitely on my list.
Oh, you got to do it. It's easy. It's 103 pages.
Oh, nice. Love that. That's my favorite kind.
Yeah, exactly.
If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
To fly. Bird's eye view of everything, speed, power, fly.
You got it. That's mine too. Absolutely. Awesome. Last one. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you and learn more?
You can hit us up at blackbeltinvestors.com. That's with an S, blackbeltinvestors.com, or remoterehabs.com. And if you call us and let us know that you are on this podcast and listen to the very end, let us know either by email or calling us that you're on the podcast, and we will send you out a very free fix and flip calculator to where you can run the numbers and see if it's a good deal for you or not. Is that cool?
Hey, we love that. Absolutely. That's great. Sensei, thank you so much for your time.
No. You're not getting off that easy.
No, continue, please.
Hey, what is your favorite superhero and why?
Oh man. First love was Superman. Flying, for sure. The flying and the strength. That's why my answer to that question is flying. I've always loved flying. I wanted to be a pilot for a long time. So
I didn't have the desire to pilot, but I've skydived several times. So almost there.
Nice. Yeah.
But you said that was your first love. Where are you at now?
Now I lean more towards like Iron Man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something maybe a little bit more realistic.
Yes, correct. Exactly. Right. Something a man created,
Okay. It's not Robert Downey Jr.'s humor or his pad that he's got on the coastline.
I already have his humor, so we're good there.
All right, cool.
Maybe that's why. Maybe I resonate so much with him.
Right on. Okay, cool. Love it.
Yeah. Thank you. Sensei, again, appreciate your time very much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching today's episode. I hope you really enjoyed it. Listen, I know it's cliche and you hear it all the time, but please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you know when the next video is coming out. Even though this is technically a daily podcast, you know it's coming out the next day. We have a ton of content coming your way. So please like and subscribe. It helps a ton. Leave comments. Would love to know what you guys think. And we will see you on the next one. Thanks so much.